The wrench slipped from Rolf's clawed hand and clattered against the metal floor. He clicked his mandibles in frustration, watching as the human mechanic bent down to retrieve it without a word. This made the Grecian's annoyance grow stronger. Owen Bradley had been working in the engine room of the Dawn's Promise for 3 months now. The merchant vessel carried cargo across the outer rim, and its crew represented 7 different species from across known space. Humans were still newcomers to the galactic community, having joined only 15 years ago. Most species still viewed them with curiosity mixed with barely hidden contempt. "Careful with that, human," Ralph said, his voice buzzing through the translator device. "Your soft fingers might break if you grip it too hard." Owen simply nodded and handed the tool back. His face showed no reaction to the insult. This was normal. The crew rarely missed an opportunity to remind him of his species' physical limitations. The work shift ended as the ship's automated system announced the dinner hour. Owen cleaned his hands on a cloth and headed toward the mess hall. His muscles ached from crawling through tight spaces all day, but he kept his expression neutral. Showing weakness would only invite more mockery. The mess hall buzzed with conversation in multiple languages. The translator devices worked overtime to convert the various sounds into comprehensible speech. Owen grabbed his meal from the dispenser and sat at an empty table near the viewport. Through the reinforced glass, stars streaked past as the ship traveled through subspace. He had barely taken his first bite when Ralph's voice boomed across the room. "Tell me, human, is it true your bones break like dried twigs?" Several crew members turned to look. Owen continued eating, hoping the moment would pass. It did not. Pina, the Valorian medic, spoke up from her table. Her amphibian features showed concern. "Ralph, perhaps we should focus on our meals." No. I am genuinely curious," Ralph insisted, moving to stand near Owen's table. His exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lights, a natural armor that humans could never possess. "I have read about your species. No shells, no scales, no protective covering at all. Just thin skin that tears easily. How does such a fragile creature survive?" Other crew members joined in with their own observations. A Kryn navigator mentioned that humans needed constant temperature regulation, or they would die. A Dalmar engineer pointed out that humans could not breathe half the atmospheric mixtures that other species found normal. Even the Thurian cook, normally quiet, noted that human digestive systems were remarkably limited. "Your species cannot even regenerate lost limbs," Rolf continued, clearly enjoying himself now. "A Grecian who loses an arm will grow another within a year. You humans are stuck with your original parts. One major injury and you are finished." Owen set down his fork. He looked up at Rolf with calm brown eyes. "You are right about most of that." This surprised the Grecian. He had expected defensiveness or anger. "So you admit it? Humans are the weakest species in known space?" "Physically, we have disadvantages," Owen agreed. He took a drink from his cup before continuing. "No natural armor, no venom, no claws or fangs worth mentioning. Average strength compared to most of you. Yes, all true." Ralph's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. He turned to the other crew members. "You see? Even the human admits it. I do not understand why Captain Doran hired one. We should stick to proven species." Captain Doran, who had been eating quietly in the corner, finally spoke. The massive Horalian stood nearly 8 feet tall, his bear-like frame covered in thick fur. "Ralph, that is enough. But Captain, I speak only facts. There is no shame in acknowledging reality. I said enough." The captain's voice carried authority that even Ralph respected. "I have heard things about humans. Things from military contacts. You would be wise not to push this matter further." Ralph wanted to argue but saw the serious look in the captain's eyes. He returned to his own table, though he continued to mutter to his companions. Pina approached Owen's table after the room settled back into normal conversation. "I apologize for their behavior. Not all of us think poorly of your species." "No apology needed," Owen said. "They are not wrong about human biology, but they are rude." Pina's large eyes showed genuine sympathy. "I have been studying human medicine since you joined the crew. Your species is fascinating, very different from anything I learned in medical school." Owen smiled slightly. It was the first real expression he had shown all evening. "Different how?" "Your pain tolerance, for one thing. The medical database shows humans can function with injuries that would incapacitate most species, and your healing process, while slower than some, is remarkably thorough. Psychological resilience scores are also unusually high. We do what we need to do," Owen said simply. Pina wanted to ask more questions, but the ship's intercom interrupted. All personnel, be advised we are approaching the nebula cluster. Minor gravitational fluctuations expected. Secure all loose items. The crew began finishing their meals and heading to their stations. Owen returned his tray to the cleaning unit and made his way back to engineering. Night shifts were usually quiet, just monitoring systems and performing routine checks. He noticed Ralph had already left the mess hall. The Grecian would be in the engine room too as crew chief. They would work together in uncomfortable silence as they did every shift. Owen did not mind the mockery, not really. He had heard worse during his military service. The frontier wars had shown him what true hardship looked like. Insults from ignorant crew members barely registered compared to those memories. As he walked through the corridor, Owen unconsciously touched the scar on his right hand. It was a thin white line running from his thumb to his wrist. A reminder of a day he tried not to think about. A day when he learned exactly how much pain a human body could endure. The engine room doors slid open with a soft hiss. The familiar hum of the ship's power core welcomed him. This was where he felt most comfortable, surrounded by machines that did not judge or mock. Machines that simply worked or did not work. Ralph stood near the main console, reviewing the day's maintenance logs. He glanced at Owen but said nothing. The human took his position at the secondary station and began his routine checks. Outside the ship, the nebula cluster loomed closer. Beautiful swirls of gas and dust glowed in shades of purple and blue. Within that beauty, gravitational anomalies and magnetic storms waited. The dawn's promise would need to navigate carefully. Neither Owen nor Ralph knew that within the next hour, everything would change. The fragile human was about to show exactly what his species could endure, and Ralph's mockery would die in his throat, replaced by something he had never felt before. Fear of what humans truly were. Red warning lights flooded the engine room without any prior notice. The sudden shift from normal white illumination to crimson emergency lighting made Ralph's compound eyes struggle to adjust. He heard the warning klaxon before his brain processed what the control panel was showing him. Coolant pressure had dropped to 0 in the main conduit. Temperature readings for the plasma core were climbing fast. "What is happening?" Ralph shouted over the alarm. His claws moved across the control panel, trying to isolate the problem. Owen was already moving. He had seen this kind of failure before during the war. His hands flew across his own terminal, bringing up a schematic of the coolant system. Rupture in the primary line. Section 7. That is impossible. I inspected that section myself yesterday. Metal fatigue. Happens with older ships. Owen's voice stayed calm even as the temperature readings continued to rise. We need to reroute through the secondary system. Ralph tried to access the secondary controls. Nothing happened. He tried again. Still nothing. The backup system is not responding. Manual override then. Owen was already heading toward the access corridor that led deeper into the engine room. Keep trying the automated system. I will handle the manual valve. Wait, human. That section is right next to the rupture. The temperature there will be... Owen did not wait to hear the rest. He grabbed a heat-resistant glove from the emergency locker and ran toward Section 7. Behind him, Ralph stood frozen for a moment before hitting the general alarm. This was beyond his capability to handle alone. The access corridor grew hotter with each step Owen took. His skin prickled from the radiant heat even before he reached the sealed door to Section 7. Through the small window, he could see vapor and plasma venting from the broken coolant line. The metal walls glowed dull red from the heat. His hand reached for the door release, then stopped. The handle was already hot enough to burn through the glove. He needed a different approach. Owen turned and ran back to the main engineering bay. Ralph was shouting into the communication system, calling for emergency response teams. Other crew members had arrived and were staring at the displays in horror. The door is too hot, Owen said quickly. He grabbed a pry bar from the tool rack. I need to use the maintenance shaft. Pina had arrived with the medical team. Her face showed confusion. You cannot go in there. Those temperatures will kill you in seconds. Not if I am fast. Owen moved toward the maintenance shaft entrance. It was a narrow crawl space that ran parallel to the main corridor. Maintenance workers used it to access pipes and wiring without shutting down entire sections. Captain Doran's voice boomed from the doorway. Report. Coolant rupture, Captain, Ralph said quickly. Core temperature rising. We have maybe 10 minutes before breach. Evacuate this section. Seal it off. The manual override is inside the hot zone, Owen called out. He was already opening the maintenance shaft hatch. I can reach it through here. Negative, the captain ordered. We will vent the section to space in no time. Core breach happens first. Owen pulled himself into the shaft. Trust me, Captain. I have done this before. Before anyone could stop him, he disappeared into the narrow passage. The hatch sealed behind him with a heavy clang. Inside the shaft, the heat was worse than Owen had anticipated. The metal walls were hot to the touch, and the air itself seemed to burn his lungs with each breath. He crawled forward, ignoring the pain as his exposed hands touched the scorching surface. In the main engineering bay, the crew gathered around the observation monitors. Security cameras inside the maintenance shaft showed Owen's progress. His uniform was already darkening with sweat. The fabric near his shoulders began to smoke. By the void, someone whispered. He is going to cook alive in there. Pina's hands covered her mouth. She had studied human biology, but reading about heat tolerance and watching it in real time were very different things. Her own species would have already died from shock. The Valorian nervous system was designed to shut down the body before it could suffer such damage. Owen reached the junction point, where the shaft opened to Section 7, through the access panel. He could see the ruptured coolant line spewing superheated plasma against the far wall. The manual override valve was only 3 meters away, but those 3 meters might as well have been 3 kilometers. His communication device crackled. "Owen, your suit temperature is critical," Captain Doran said. "Abort and seal the shaft." "That is an order." Owen looked at the override valve, then at the temperature gauge on the wall. The core was approaching critical mass. If it breached, the explosion would destroy half the ship and kill everyone in this section. "Negative, Captain. I can make it." He kicked open the access panel and dropped into Section 7. The heat hit him like a physical blow. He felt his exposed skin on his face and hands immediately begin to burn. The pain was intense, sharp, demanding that his brain focus on nothing else. Instead, Owen laughed. It was a short, sharp sound that surprised even him. Old training from the war kicked in. "Pain is just information," his instructor had said. "Your body is trying to warn you. Thank it for the warning and move on." "Come on," he muttered to himself. "I have had worse sunburns." The crew watching from the observation window stood in shocked silence. The human was walking through hell itself, and he was laughing about it. Owen's hands reached the manual override. The valve wheel was designed for Grecian claws, not human fingers. He gripped it anyway, feeling the heated metal burn through what was left of his glove. His damaged hand screamed in protest as he turned the wheel. It did not move. Pressure from the rupture had locked it in place. Owen set his feet and pulled harder. His vision began to blur from the heat and pain. Sweat poured down his face, evaporating almost instantly. He could smell his own uniform burning. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew he was accumulating serious injuries. Burns that would take weeks to heal if he survived at all. The wheel moved. Just slightly, but it moved. He pulled again, throwing all his weight into it. Something in his shoulder made a popping sound that he felt more than heard. The wheel turned another few degrees. "That is right, you piece of junk," he said through gritted teeth. "Give me what I need. One more pull." The wheel spun free, and the secondary coolant system roared to life. Cold fluid rushed through the backup lines, and the temperature in Section 7 began to drop immediately. Owen stood there for a moment, swaying slightly. His hands were covered in burns and blisters. His face felt like it was on fire. Parts of his uniform had melted to his skin. But the core was stable. The ship was safe. He turned and walked toward the exit. Each step was deliberate, careful. His body wanted to collapse, but he refused to let it, not yet. Not where the crew could see him fall. The door to Section 7 opened as the emergency systems registered the temperature drop. Captain Doran and half the crew stood there staring at him. Owen stumbled out, leaving footprints of melted boot rubber behind him. He looked at the captain and gave a small nod. "Someone should fix that door lock," he said. His voice sounded rough even to his own ears. "Safety hazard." Then he walked past the stunned crew toward the medical bay. His legs shook with each step, but he made it to the corridor before anyone moved to help him. Pride kept him upright. That and the knowledge that if he showed weakness now, the mockery would return. Behind him, Rolth stood motionless. His mandibles hung open in shock. He had just watched the fragile human do something no Grecian would have survived. More than that, he had watched the human laugh while doing it. The crew parted silently as Owen passed. No one spoke. No one mocked. They simply stared at the burned human who had just saved all their lives. And in that moment, something fundamental changed in how they saw the newest species in their galactic community. Pina's medical training had prepared her for many emergencies. Burns, broken bones, radiation exposure, decompression injuries. She had treated dozens of species across hundreds of cases during her career. None of that training had prepared her for what walked into her medical bay. Owen sat on the examination table without being asked. His movements were controlled despite the obvious pain he must be feeling. Pina's hands trembled as she reached for her scanner. She had watched the whole incident through the observation monitors. Seeing him now in person made it worse somehow. "Let me see your hands," she said softly. Owen held them out. The gloves had melted into his skin in several places. What she could see underneath showed second-degree burns covering most of both palms and several fingers. The skin was red, blistered, and weeping clear fluid. "I need to remove what is left of your uniform," Pina said. "This will hurt, I know." Owen's voice was steady. "Do what you need to do." Pina carefully cut away the burned fabric. Some sections had fused to his skin and required a solvent to remove. Any other species would have been unconscious from shock by now. Owen sat there, breathing slowly and deliberately but fully aware. His torso showed more burns. His back had suffered the worst damage where his uniform had pressed against the heated metal of the maintenance shaft. Pina estimated burns covering nearly 30% of his body. For most species, that level of damage would have triggered an automatic survival response, shutting down consciousness to preserve brain function. "How are you still awake?" The question escaped before Pina could stop herself. Owen managed a weak smile. "Human trick. We are good at ignoring what our bodies tell us, but why? Your body is trying to protect you. Why fight it? Because giving in to pain means giving up, and sometimes giving up is not an option." Pina began applying the first layer of treatment gel. It was designed to cool burns and prevent infection. Owen's jaw tightened, but he made no sound. She had seen Valorians cry out from paper cuts. This human sat silently while she treated burns that should have killed him. The medical bay door opened. Captain Doran stood there, his massive frame filling the doorway. "How is he?" "Alive somehow," Pina said. "Second-degree burns over approximately 30% of his body. Some third-degree on his hands. Smoke inhalation. Possible heat stroke. He should be in critical condition. Instead, he walked here on his own and is sitting upright having a conversation." The captain looked at Owen with new eyes. "I owe you an apology, Bradley. I did not believe humans were capable of what I just witnessed." "Just doing my job, Captain. Your job is maintaining the engines. Your job is not becoming a hero." Owen shrugged, then winced as the movement pulled at his burned skin. Someone had to do it. I was closest. Other crew members had gathered outside the medical bay. Pina could see them through the transparent sections of the door. They stood in small groups talking in hushed voices. Some pointed at Owen, others simply stared. Ralph pushed his way through the crowd. The Grecian's usual confidence was gone. He stopped at the doorway, his mandibles clicking nervously. "I wanted to," he began, then stopped. "I need to—" "It is fine, Ralph," Owen said. "No hard feelings. But I mocked you. I called your species weak, fragile, and then you did what no Grecian could do. What no member of any species I know could do." Owen closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his expression was tired but sincere. "You were not wrong. Humans are fragile. We have no shells, no natural armor, no regeneration. Everything you said was true. Then how?" Rolf gestured helplessly at Owen's injuries. "How did you survive in there? How did you function? I watched you laugh while burning alive." Pina paused in her treatment to hear the answer. She wanted to know too. This went beyond simple biology. Something else was at work here. Owen took a slow breath. "My species evolved on a planet that tried to kill us constantly. Predators, diseases, extreme temperatures, injuries from hunting and gathering. We survived because we learned to push through pain, to function while hurt. We developed psychological tools to manage suffering." "Psychological tools?" Pina asked. "Ways of thinking about pain that make it more manageable, recognizing it as just information, not a stop signal. Breaking it down into smaller pieces, using humor to take away its power, focusing on the task instead of the sensation." "The laugh," Ralph said quietly. "That is why you laughed." Owen nodded. "Laughing at pain makes it smaller somehow. Gives me control over it instead of letting it control me. It is a technique they taught us in military training. Make pain your companion, not your enemy. Your military trained soldiers to laugh at pain? Pina could not hide her shock. Among other things, they put us through stress inoculation, controlled exposure to pain and fear in safe environments. We learn what our bodies and minds can handle. We learn to function through things that would stop us otherwise. Captain Doran stepped further into the medical bay. I heard about the frontier wars, about human soldiers who continued fighting with injuries that should have killed them. I thought the stories were exaggerated. Some probably were, Owen admitted, but the basic truth is accurate. Humans have a very high tolerance for continuing to operate while damaged. It is both a blessing and a curse. How is it a curse? Pina asked. Because sometimes we push too far. We ignore signals that we should listen to. We damage ourselves permanently because we refuse to quit. Owen looked at his bandaged hands. Every human who does this kind of thing pays a price later. Chronic pain, damaged joints, psychological scars. We survive the moment but carry the consequences forever. The medical bay fell silent. Pina continued her work, wrapping Owen's torso in specialized bandaging that would promote healing. She worked carefully, aware that every crew member watching was learning something new about the species they had mocked. I am sorry, Rolth said finally, for my words in the mess hall, for my disrespect. I know. Owen met the Grecian's eyes, and I accept your apology. But understand something, Rolth. Every species has its strengths. Yours is physical durability and regeneration. Mine is psychological endurance. Neither is better. They are just different. Rolth clicked his mandibles in agreement. It was a gesture of respect among his people. You saved our lives today, human. That debt will not be forgotten. Just Bradley, or Owen. Human is not really a name. A small laugh rippled through the crew members at the door. The tension began to ease slightly. Pina felt herself relax as well. The immediate crisis was over, both medical and social. Owen, Captain Doran said formally, effective immediately, you are promoted to Assistant Chief Engineer. The position comes with increased pay and authority over maintenance schedules. Captain, I do not think, I insist. You have earned it. More importantly, the crew needs to see that merit matters more than biology. Owen looked like he wanted to argue, but the pain and exhaustion were catching up with him now. The adrenaline that had kept him going was fading. Pina saw his eyes growing heavy. Everyone out, she ordered. My patient needs rest. You can celebrate his heroism later. The crew dispersed slowly, still talking among themselves. Captain Doran gave Owen a final nod before leaving. Rolth was the last to go, hesitating at the door before finally departing. Pina administered a mild sedative to help Owen sleep. His body needed rest to begin the healing process. As his eyes closed, she sat down in her chair and updated his medical file. She added a note at the end. Human resilience continues to exceed all documented expectations. Further study required to understand psychological mechanisms that allow function through severe trauma. Patient demonstrates species-typical response to life-threatening injury, namely calm assessment and continued operation, despite conditions that would incapacitate most known species. Then she added one more line. Personal rather than professional. Today I learned that fragility and strength are not opposites. Sometimes the most fragile things are also the strongest, because they have no choice but to be. Outside the medical bay, the ship continued on its journey through the nebula cluster. The crew went about their duties, but conversations kept returning to the same topic. The human who laughed while burning, the fragile species that refused to break. And in the mess hall where Owen had been mocked just hours earlier, no one spoke ill of humans anymore. Some lessons, it seemed, could only be learned through witnessing the impossible. 2 weeks had passed since the engine room incident. Owen's burns were healing faster than Pina had expected, though she kept that observation to herself. The pink new skin on his hands and back looked tender, but he worked without complaint. His movements showed only slight stiffness where the worst burns had been. The Dawn's Promise approached Haven Station, a massive trading hub that served the Outer Rim territories. Ships from hundreds of worlds docked here, making it a melting pot of cultures and species. It also made it a perfect place for gossip to spread. Rolth had talked. So had other crew members. The story of the human who walked through fire grew with each retelling. By the time the ship docked, half the station had heard some version of the tale. Owen noticed the stairs as he walked through the station's main concourse. Other species moved aside, giving him more space than necessary. Some pointed. Others whispered behind translator devices. He found the station's equipment supplier and placed an order for replacement parts. The Kryn merchant looked at him with wide eyes. "You are the one from the Dawn's Promise? The human who survived the plasma burn?" "I am a mechanic from that ship, yes. The stories say you laughed while your skin melted, that you completed the repair before seeking medical help, that you walked out on your own as if nothing happened." Owen sighed. Stories always grew in the telling. I completed a necessary repair in difficult conditions. The rest is exaggeration. Is it true humans feel no pain? No, we feel pain just fine. We just do not always let it stop us. The merchant processed this, his expression unreadable. Fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. Owen collected his order and headed to the station's recreation sector. He needed to clear his head before returning to the ship. The past 2 weeks had been uncomfortable, with crew members treating him differently. Some with respect, others with an unease that felt worse than the original mockery. The recreation sector contained bars, entertainment venues, and training facilities. Owen found himself drawn to a quiet establishment called the Void's End. It catered to ship crews, offering drinks and food from dozens of worlds. Inside, he found a table in the corner and ordered a simple meal. The establishment was half full, with various species relaxing after long shifts or between contracts. Owen recognized the universal atmosphere of workers seeking temporary escape from their responsibilities. 3 other humans sat at the bar. Owen had not expected to see any. Humans were still rare this far out. He caught the eye of one, a woman with short gray hair and military bearing. She raised her glass in acknowledgement. After a moment, she approached his table. "Mind if I join you?" "Please." She sat down and extended her hand. River Chen, retired military. Security consultant now. Owen Bradley. Merchant crew. I know who you are. Your story made it to the message boards. Human survives plasma exposure, completes mission, walks out like it was a minor inconvenience. River's expression was knowing. Let me guess. Former military? Combat engineer? 6 years. Thought so. Civilians do not usually have that kind of stress training. She took a drink. The galaxy is learning what humans can do when we refuse to quit. Not sure if that is good or bad for us. What do you mean? Some species will respect us more. Others will fear us. Fear can go either way. River gestured around the bar. See that Grecian near the door? He has been staring at you since you walked in. Not friendly curiosity either. Owen glanced over. The Grecian was larger than Rolth, with darker exoskeleton plates that suggested either age or military augmentation. His companions, 2 more Grecians and a Thurian, were engaged in animated conversation while looking in Owen's direction. Trouble? Owen asked, possibly. Some species do not like having their superiority questioned. Your survival showed weakness in the Grecian reputation for toughness. As if summoned by the conversation, the large Grecian stood and approached their table. His mandibles clicked in a pattern Owen had learned to recognize as aggression. You are the human from the Dawn's Promise? I am. I am Garth. I have heard the stories about you. I do not believe them. Owen set down his fork. You are entitled to your opinion. Stories of humans exaggerate everything. Your species is known for fiction and imagination. I think what happened was much less impressive than claimed. River's hand moved subtly toward her belt, where Owen suspected she carried some form of weapon. He shook his head slightly. No need for that yet. The repair logs are public record, Owen said calmly. Temperature readings, video footage, medical reports. Believe what you want. Video can be altered. Reports can be falsified. I think humans are trying to build a reputation they have not earned. Other patrons were watching now. The bartender, a Dulmar with experience reading trouble, moved his hand toward the emergency signal. What would it take to convince you? Owen asked. Garth's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Proof. Real proof, not stories and edited video. What kind of proof? The training facility here has a pain simulator. It creates neural feedback that mimics real pain without causing actual damage. Most species can tolerate level 4 or 5. Military personnel reach 6 or 7. I have personally achieved level 8, the highest ever recorded for a Grecian. Owen saw where this was going. And you want me to try it. If humans are truly as resilient as claimed, it should be easy for you. Unless the stories are lies, River leaned forward. Bradley, you do not have to prove anything to this. I will do it, Owen interrupted. He looked at Garth. When? Now. The facility is 3 sections away. Unless you need time to prepare? No preparation needed, Owen stood, finishing his drink. River grabbed his arm. This is stupid. You have nothing to prove, maybe not to him. But if I walk away, every human in the Outer Rim will face this challenge. Someone has to set the baseline. That is military thinking. You are not in the service anymore. Some training never leaves you. Owen gave her a small smile. Come watch. Make sure the equipment is not rigged. Word spread quickly through the station. By the time Owen and his group reached the training facility, a crowd had gathered. Station security showed up to maintain order, which Owen found both reassuring and concerning. How big had this gotten? The facility manager, a elderly Kryn, looked worried. I must warn you, the pain simulator is not a toy. It has safety limits for a reason. No one has ever attempted level 9 or 10. The neural stress could cause permanent damage. What level do you recommend I start at? Owen asked, for a human, unknown. Your species is not in our database. I would suggest level 3 and increase gradually. Garth clicked his mandibles. Start at 7. That is the standard military level. If humans are so tough, a trained one should handle it easily. Owen nodded. 7 it is. The manager looked like he wanted to argue but helped Owen into the simulator harness. It resembled a standing frame with neural sensors that attached to the head, spine, and major nerve clusters. A display showed the current level and the user's vital signs. The simulation will include various pain types, the manager explained. Sharp, dull, burning, crushing. It cycles through them randomly. Most people last 30 seconds at level 7 before requesting shutdown. Understood. The crowd pressed closer to the observation windows. Owen could see Rolth in the group, his expression unreadable. Captain Doran had arrived as well, looking disapproving but making no move to stop the demonstration. Ready? The manager asked. Ready. The Kryn activated the simulator at level 7. Owen's body went rigid immediately as the neural feedback began. The sensation was like being stabbed, burned, and crushed simultaneously. His training kicked in automatically. Breathe, assess, adapt, continue. 30 seconds passed. Owen remained standing, eyes open, jaw clenched but controlled. 60 seconds. His hands gripped the simulator frame, knuckles white, but his vital signs stayed within acceptable ranges. 90 seconds. A bead of sweat ran down his temple. His breathing had increased but remained steady. At 2 minutes, the manager looked at the readings in disbelief. Impossible. His neural stress markers should have triggered automatic shutdown. Garth's mandibles hung open. The crowd had gone silent. Owen's voice came out strained but clear. Is this your level 8? The manager's hands shook as he increased the setting. The display climbed from 7 to 8. Owen's body shuddered, and for a moment everyone thought he would collapse. Instead, he laughed. It was the same grim sound the crew of the Dawn's Promise had heard in the engine room. The sound of a human refusing to break. Baseline established, Owen said through gritted teeth. Humans can't handle this. He lasted another minute at level 8 before finally requesting shutdown. When the neural feedback ceased, he sagged against the frame but remained conscious. His vital signs showed extreme stress but nothing dangerous. The crowd erupted in shocked conversation. Garth stood motionless, his earlier confidence shattered. Owen unhooked himself from the simulator and walked to where the Grecian stood. He extended his hand in the human gesture of peace. No hard feelings. You needed proof. Now you have it. Garth stared at the offered hand, then slowly reached out with his claw. It was the first time Owen had seen a Grecian perform the human handshake. Your species is not what I thought, Garth said quietly. I apologize for my doubt. River appeared at Owen's side, steadying him as the adrenaline began to fade. You are an idiot, Bradley. A brave idiot, but still an idiot. Probably, Owen agreed. His legs felt weak and his head was spinning. Can we go back to the bar now? I need another drink. The crowd parted as they walked, but this time the stares were different. Not curiosity or doubt, respect mixed with something else. Something that looked like fear. And Owen realized River had been right. The galaxy was learning what humans could endure. Whether that knowledge would help or hurt his species remained to be seen. The next morning found Owen back at the Void's End. nursing a headache that had nothing to do with the previous night's demonstration. River sat across from him, reviewing something on her datapad. The bar was quieter now, serving the early shift workers before the day fully began. "You made the regional news feeds," River said without looking up. "Human sets new record for pain tolerance. Grecian military is reportedly upset that one of their own challenged you and lost." Owen rubbed his temples. "Great, just what I needed. More attention. Too late now. You are a symbol whether you want to be or not." She finally looked at him. "Question is, what do you do with that?" "I go back to my ship and do my job." "What else?" "You could do more. Consulting work, training programs, speaking engagements. Species across the sector want to understand human capabilities now. There is money in that." "I am not interested in money." River smiled slightly. "I know your type, Bradley. You did not volunteer for that demonstration because of pride or money. You did it because you saw a bigger picture. One human proving something helps all humans." Owen did not respond immediately. She was right, though he did not like admitting it. Every human in the Outer Rim would face less skepticism now. That mattered more than his personal comfort. His communicator buzzed. Captain Doran's voice came through. "Bradley, return to the ship immediately. We have a situation." Owen and River exchanged glances. The captain's tone carried urgency. They both stood, River following without being asked. Her security consultant instincts had clearly activated. The Dawn's Promises bridge was crowded when they arrived. The entire senior crew had gathered around the main display. Captain Doran gestured them closer. "We received a distress signal 20 minutes ago. Mining colony on the 4th moon of Talos. They are under attack by raiders." "Raiders this far out?" Rolth asked. "That is unusual. Desperate times. The colony has stockpiled rare minerals. Someone decided to help themselves." Captain Doran pulled up the tactical display. "The colony has minimal defenses. Maybe 50 workers total. The raider ship is an old military corvette with at least 30 armed fighters." "What is our role?" Owen asked. "That is the question. We are a cargo ship, not a warship. We have light defensive weapons, but nothing that could take on a corvette. Station security is dispatching a proper response, but they are 6 hours away. The colony might not have 6 hours." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. They could run to help and likely die, or they could wait for proper authorities and possibly arrive too late. Owen studied the tactical display. The colony layout, the raider positions, the terrain. His military training mapped it automatically, seeing possibilities others might miss. "We cannot fight them directly," he said slowly. "But we do not have to." "Explain," the captain ordered. "Raiders want the minerals, not casualties. They are there for profit. We change the equation. How? We make it cost more than they can afford. Harassment tactics, false signals, anything that makes them think the situation is more dangerous than it is. We buy time for the real security forces to arrive." Rolth's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Asymmetric warfare. You were talking about guerrilla tactics." "Exactly. We have one advantage. They do not know what we are capable of." Owen looked at Captain Doran. "They definitely do not know what humans are capable of." River laughed. "You want to bluff them using human reputation? That is insane." "Is it? News travels fast out here. There is a good chance they heard about yesterday's demonstration. Maybe they heard about the engine room incident too. We use that fear." Captain Doran considered this. "You are proposing we insert a team on the moon and conduct harassment operations to slow the raiders down?" "Small team. Fast-moving. Hit and run. Make them paranoid." Owen tapped the display. "These old mining colonies have tunnel networks. Perfect for that kind of operation." "This is not your job, Bradley. You are an engineer, not a soldier anymore. I was both. Combat engineer, remember? I know how to make things work and how to make them stop working." The captain looked around the bridge. "Who would volunteer for this suicide mission?" Ralph stepped forward immediately. "I will go. I owe the human a debt. This seems like a good time to repay it." 2 others volunteered. A Thurian named Gresh who had military experience and, surprisingly, Pina. "You are a medic," the captain said to her. "Yes, which means if someone gets hurt, you will want me there." Pina's large eyes showed determination. "Also, I want to see how humans operate in combat conditions. Professional curiosity." River cleared her throat. "I am volunteering too. I have tactical experience and equipment you will need." Captain Doran looked at the assembled team. An engineer, a crew chief, a soldier, a medic, and a security consultant. Not exactly a military unit, but it would have to do. Rules of engagement, the captain said firmly. Your mission is to delay and distract, not to engage in direct combat. You avoid casualties, theirs and yours. If the situation becomes too dangerous, you extract immediately. Understood? Everyone nodded. The preparation took an hour. River had brought serious equipment, including tactical gear and weapons that raised questions about what kind of consulting she actually did. Owen selected tools from the ship's engineering bay that could be weaponized if needed. Ralph approached as Owen packed his gear. I want to say something before we do this. Go ahead. When I mocked you in the mess hall, I thought I understood what humans were. Weak, fragile, barely worth consideration. The Grecian's voice held genuine regret. I was wrong in ways I did not know were possible. You are not weak. Your species is terrifying. We are just different, Ralph. No, it is more than that. My species evolved with armor because we needed protection. Yours evolved without it and survived anyway. That requires something we do not have. Something I am only beginning to understand. Owen finished packing and looked at his crewmate. What is that? The ability to keep going when everything says you should stop. To laugh at pain because stopping means death. To be fragile and unbreakable at the same time. Ralph's mandibles clicked in respect. I am honored to fight alongside you, Owen Bradley. The honor is mutual. The team gathered in the shuttle bay. Captain Doran gave final instructions and authorization codes. Pina ran medical checks on everyone. River distributed communication equipment and tactical displays. As they boarded the shuttle, Owen felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling over him. He had not expected to do this again. The war was supposed to be behind him, but here he was, preparing for combat to save people he had never met. The shuttle launched, dropping away from the dawn's promise toward the moon below. Through the viewport, Owen could see the Raider corvette in orbit. It looked predatory, dangerous, exactly the kind of threat that should make any rational person reconsider their choices. Instead, Owen felt calm. This was what humans did. They found impossible situations and made them possible through sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Everyone ready? River asked from the pilot's seat. Ready, Owen confirmed. The others echoed the sentiment. Then let us show these raiders why you do not mess with humans and their friends. The shuttle entered the moon's thin atmosphere, angling toward the mining colony below. Somewhere down there, 50 people were fighting for their lives. They did not know help was coming. They did not know that a small team was about to attempt something ridiculously dangerous on their behalf. But they would learn. And so would the raiders. Owen checked his equipment one last time. The tools of his trade now serving a different purpose. He touched the scar on his hand, that old reminder of past pain and survival. Here we go again, he whispered to himself. Ralph, sitting next to him, heard the words. What was that? Nothing. Just reminding myself why we do this. Why do we do this? Owen smiled. It was not a happy expression, but it was determined. Because someone has to. Because stopping is not an option. Because that is what humans do. And their friends, Ralph added. And their friends, Owen agreed. The shuttle descended through the clouds toward whatever waited below. The easy part was over. Now came the hard work of surviving what they had volunteered for. But if Owen had learned anything in his life, it was that humans were very good at surviving the unsurvivable. Today he would prove that again. And maybe, just maybe, he would help his crewmates understand what it truly meant to be human. Not the fragility that everyone saw on the surface, but the unbreakable core underneath that refused to quit no matter what the universe threw at it. The shuttle touched down in a valley 5 kilometers from the colony. The mission had begun, and with it, another chapter in the growing legend of human endurance. The mining colony's tunnel network was older than Owen had expected. Centuries old, maybe. The walls showed layers of excavation from different eras and technologies. Perfect for what they needed to do. Colonists are holed up in the central processing facility, River reported, reading her tactical scanner. Raiders have them surrounded but have not breached yet. They are trying to force a surrender. How many raiders? Owen asked. Thermal imaging shows 28 outside the facility. The rest are probably looting the outer buildings or guarding their ship. Gresh, the Thurian soldier, checked his weapon. We are 5 against 30. Not good odds. We do not need to beat them, Owen reminded him. We just need to make them think twice. They moved through the tunnels toward the colony center. Owen had divided them into 2 teams. He and Rolf would hit the raiders' rear positions. River, Pina, and Gresh would secure an escape route for the colonists. The first hit came fast. Owen identified the raiders' communication relay, a portable unit set up near their landing site. He and Rolf approached through the tunnels, emerging in an equipment shed 50 meters away. That relay controls their coordination, Owen whispered. Without it, they are individuals instead of a unit. How do we destroy it without alerting them? Owen pulled out a device from his pack. We do not destroy it. We hijack it. River's technical expertise had provided the tools. Owen connected his portable computer to the relay through a splice in the buried cable. Within minutes, he had access to their communications network. This is going to be fun, he said with a grim smile. He activated the relay and spoke in the common trade language. Attention, Raider forces. This is Captain Chen of the Alliance security vessel Retribution. We have you surrounded. You have 5 minutes to surrender before we open fire. Chaos erupted on the Raider communication channels. Voices shouted over each other demanding confirmation, asking about Alliance ships, wondering how they had been detected. There is no Alliance ship, one voice said. The leader, probably. It is a bluff. Maintain positions, Owen had expected that. He triggered the second part of his plan. Using the colony's own mining charges, strategically placed in the hills surrounding the settlement, he created a series of explosions. They were small, controlled nowhere near anyone, but they looked like weapons fire from orbit. Still think it is a bluff? Owen broadcast, the Raider channels erupted again. Several voices demanded immediate withdrawal. The leader tried to maintain control, but doubt had taken root. Play the recording, Owen said to Ralph. The Grecian activated the audio file River had prepared. It was a composite of various ship sounds, edited to resemble multiple vessels moving into position. Owen broadcasted across all frequencies. Multiple Alliance vessels detected, someone shouted on the Raider network. We need to leave now. Maintain position, the leader ordered. But his voice carried less certainty. Owen triggered another set of mining charges. Closer this time, near the Raider perimeter. Dirt and rock rained down on their positions. Men shouted in alarm. That was a warning shot, Owen broadcast. Next one will be real. You have 3 minutes, the Raiders broke. Not all of them, but enough. A dozen fighters ran for their ship, abandoning their positions. The leader screamed orders, but the tide had turned. Fear was contagious. Now, Owen said into his team communicator. River's group moved quickly, using the chaos to reach the colonists. Pina worked on overriding the facility's locked doors while Gresh and River provided cover. The few raiders still maintaining the siege were distracted, looking at the sky for the Alliance ships that did not exist. The facility doors opened. 50 terrified miners poured out, guided by River toward the tunnel network. They would be safe there, hidden in passages the raiders did not know about. One raider noticed the evacuation and raised the alarm. The leader, seeing his prize escaping, rallied his remaining forces. A dozen fighters turned toward the fleeing colonists. This was the moment Owen had hoped to avoid. Direct confrontation. Ralph, with me. Owen left the relay station and ran toward the raiders' path. They needed to buy time for the colonists to reach safety. He emerged from cover 20 meters ahead of the raider group. Alone, unarmed except for tools, facing a dozen armed fighters, Ralph appeared beside him, clicking his mandibles in what might have been either courage or insanity. Stop right there, Owen called out. The raiders hesitated. They saw a human and a Grecian blocking their path. 2 against 12. It should have been laughable. You are the human from the news feeds, one raider said. Recognition dawned on his face. The one who survived the plasma burn? Who set the pain tolerance record? I am. And I am telling you to stop. Why should we? You are too. We are 12. Owen smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Because I am the kind of human who walks through fire for strangers. What do you think I will do to protect people I have already committed to saving? He started walking toward them. Not running, not charging. Just walking, steady and inevitable. Ralph matched his pace. You are bluffing, the raider said, but his voice wavered. Am I? Yesterday, I endured level 8 pain simulation for 2 minutes to make a point. Today I rigged your communication network, faked an Alliance attack and evacuated 50 people from under your nose. Owen kept walking. You really want to find out what else I can do when motivated? The raiders looked at each other. The stories about humans had seemed exaggerated, impossible. But here was living proof walking toward them, and the uncertainty was worse than the threat. The colonists are gone, Owen continued. Your leader abandoned you when he ran for the ship. The Alliance will actually arrive in about 5 hours. You have 2 choices. Fight us and probably win, but get caught by real military forces, or leave now and maybe escape. One raider turned and ran. Then another. The group fractured, each person making their own calculation about risk versus reward. Within seconds, the entire group had scattered. Owen stopped walking and let out a long breath. I cannot believe that worked. Neither can I, Ralph admitted. I was certain we were about to die. The best bluffs are mostly truth. I would have fought them if necessary. They saw that and decided the risk was not worth it. River's voice came through the communicator. All colonists secure in the tunnels. Nice work with the intimidation routine. It was not entirely routine, Owen replied. Some of it I meant. The raider ship launched 10 minutes later, fleeing the system before the non-existent Alliance vessels could arrive. The real security forces showed up 4 hours after that, finding a colony full of shaken but alive miners, and a very confused local magistrate trying to understand what had happened. Captain Doran listened to the mission report with an expression that cycled through disbelief, amusement, and resignation. You bluffed an entire raider company with mining explosives and audio files. And human reputation, Owen added. That was the key element. Insane. Absolutely insane. The captain shook his massive head. But effective. The colonists are safe. No casualties on either side. That is the best possible outcome. Back in the mess hall that evening, the crew gathered to celebrate. The atmosphere had completely transformed from Owen's first dinner months ago. No mockery now. Instead, crew members asked questions, shared stories, treated him as an equal. Ralph stood and raised his drink. A toast to Owen Bradley, who taught us that strength comes in forms we did not expect, to humans who show us that fragility and courage can exist in the same body, and to the crew of the Dawn's Promise who learned to look beyond appearances. The crew cheered. Owen felt embarrassed by the attention but accepted it gracefully. This was important for more than just him. Every human in the sector would benefit from the respect his actions had earned. Pina sat down next to him. I have been documenting everything for my medical research. With your permission, I want to publish a paper on human pain tolerance and psychological resilience. Will it help other humans receive better medical care? Yes, and it will help other species understand your people better. Then you have my permission. A new crew member approached nervously. Another human, younger, probably fresh from Earth. Excuse me, are you Owen Bradley? I am. I just got assigned to this ship. The recruiter told me to find you, said you would help me understand how to work with other species. Owen smiled, remembering his own first days aboard. Sit down. First lesson, do not let them see weakness. Second lesson, do not be afraid to show strength. And most importantly, remember that different is not the same as better or worse. The young human listened intently, and Owen found himself enjoying the role of mentor. Maybe River had been right. Maybe he could do more than just work in an engine room. Maybe his experiences could help others navigate this new galactic community. Later, as the celebration wound down, Owen stood at the observation window watching the stars. Rolf joined him, standing in comfortable silence for a moment. I have been thinking, the Grecian said finally, about what you said during the mission, about being the kind of human who does difficult things for strangers. What about it? I want to be that kind of person too. Not human, obviously, but someone who does not give up when things become hard, someone who laughs at pain instead of letting it win. Owen looked at his friend. They were friends now, truly. The journey from mockery to respect to friendship had been painful but worth it. You already are, Ralph. You volunteered for a dangerous mission to save people you did not know. That takes courage. I did it because you inspired me. You showed me that limitations are often just things we imagine, not things that truly exist. They stood together watching the cosmos drift past, two beings from different worlds, different biologies, different perspectives, but united by a shared understanding that strength came in many forms. The galaxy had mocked human fragility, then they learned that fragility was just the surface. Underneath was something much more important. The refusal to quit, the ability to laugh at pain, the determination to keep going when every rational reason said to stop. Owen touched the scar on his hand one last time. It no longer bothered him. It was a reminder of what he had survived and what he was capable of surviving in the future. The Dawn's Promise continued its journey through the stars, and Owen Bradley, once mocked mechanic, now respected hero, went back to his duties. Not because he wanted recognition or glory, but because someone had to maintain the engines. And besides, humans did not do hard things because they were easy. They did hard things because that was what humans did. They endured. They persisted. They laughed at pain. And they never ever gave up.